Hi, Misha here, and people know that I do the Eaglemoss videos, and I've talked about the ships from Alien and Aliens. This is the Narcissus shuttle. And what I always found interesting and a bit odd about Eaglemoss, they did multiple Aliens ships, but it was called the Alien Predator Collection, and they never did Predator ships. Now, to be fair, Predator ships are not as famous, but you'd think they would. Recently, Fox and I were discussing, and I found out he collects NECA figures, a brand that I've been aware of for a long time, but they went through kind of a QC a few years ago and other things going on and just never really messed with it. Plus, I'm mostly into ships. But then I discovered that they actually did do a series of ships. Most of them are, again, from Alien, which I'm sure they're decent enough, but for one thing, they're quite expensive today, and for another, I probably think the Eaglemoss are nicer. But they did do 2 Predator ships, and while the, mothership or base ship is quite expensive and hard to find, the scout ship here is actually still quite gettable, even though it was made some years ago. They're cheaper than Eaglemoss and about the same size scale. So let's take a look and talk a little bit about this ship. Why not? Pay no attention to the F-16s behind. I was doing a video on Israeli F-16s, but you can check that out if you want. They're not really apropos to this video, but just thought I'd do a quick one. On to the spinny thing, and yeah, it's quite tall up here. Let's see if either I knock over the ship on this tall stand or the camera first. Now, this is diecast, which is nice. It has, of course, some plastic parts, just like Eaglemoss would, but it's a different style of plastic. It's more flexible, more rubbery, for better or worse. You've got the fin down here, and the 2 medium plasma cannons in the front. Size-wise, yeah, it's pretty well in there with what you'd expect Eaglemoss to do. 6 inches at least, and it's, pretty wide as well. In universe, this is about, almost did it then, 33.5 meters long, so about 110 feet, and it's about 25 meters wide, so 80 some odd feet. That's actually why I bought the Narcissus out, because in universe it's about 15-20 meters long and about 20 meters wide as well. So it's smaller lengthwise, but widthwise it's almost the same. This is the closest correlation because this is, after all, a scout ship. We see this in the original Predator film. It was kind of one of those scenes where it added and detracted at the same time. It was neat to see a space scene, dropping the Predator off on Earth to hunt, but it did kind of give away the game. It kind of took away the mystery a little bit. And I do believe some versions of the film didn't have that space scene, if memory serves. I think maybe even the original theatrical version we saw in the 87, but I know the version we had on home video had it. Because remember this little brief space scene. And you can also tell this is very much a studio model, not a CGI, just kind of based on the softer, more blocky characteristics. But that was the 80s for you, and it was not primarily in the film, so it's kind of nice they gave us a ship at all. I tried to look and see if this was a reuse of a spaceship from another TV show or movie. It could have been, but no one online says so. Surprised it didn't appear in Star Trek later. Seems like a lot of models did. Anyway, specs aside, it has only 1 pilot. Like I said, it has 2 plasma guns in the front, 3 primary thrusters in the back. Interestingly, it only has a listed speed of about 96,000 miles per hour. Not that fast. I'm presuming that's just sublight. I would imagine it has to have light speed, even though it is a scout ship. Still, And the reason I say it's not that fast, the Apollo 11 capsule nearly did 25,000 miles per hour on the way to the moon. So essentially, it would only be 4 times faster than Apollo. But of course, that would probably be direct, not using orbital momentum and all that. But still, that must just be the sublight speed, which would be fast enough. That would get it from Earth's moon to Earth in well under a day, which is okay. But as you'd imagine, going through space, even short range, even if these just were dropped off by the mothership on the edge of the solar system, you'd need faster than that. Although, to be fair, the predator species does live a lot longer than us, so what's 2 weeks to us would be a couple hours for them. I wonder how long a predator in-flight movie would be. 50 hours? They probably look at Gone with the Wind as a like a brief film. What was I saying? Oh yeah. So it's piloted by one person. It does have some basic shielding. Not a whole lot of armor. It's pretty lightweight. It's not really a combat ship. Its main goal is to drop off predators to planets to hunt. It has 6 drop pods, so it can drop off up to 6 predators plus the 1 pilot, so a total of 7. It does have a few rooms and stuff inside. I mean, at 100 and some odd feet long, there's space. There's like a map room, a strategy room, probably, where they're going to pick their next vacation planet from. And there's also a trophy room, kind of a before and after deal. And that's about all we know about the inside. It's often been speculated that predator technology is kind of lifted or modified from other species. No one really knows that they build their own ships or have just kind of co-opted them. So that's the ship, and it does reappear on film in 2004 in Alien vs. Predator. And, yeah, that film. I did see it once, a long time ago. Anyway, and it's been in a lot of video games. So it's kind of the iconic Predator ship, even if it doesn't have any major appearances or, major importance, unlike, say, the Alien ships. So what about the little NECA diecast here? It's my first experience with them. And, yeah, these were only $20, $25, so half the price or even less than Eaglemoss. So expectations should be realistic. First off, I will say I do like the stand. It's a little tall, but that's NECA for you. But it does have a pivoting kind of thing here. I wouldn't go too wild with it. Now, this is a separate piece, so if you do break it, it's replaceable. But I'd position it and then kind of leave it as is. And it actually does just plug in with a hole. Eaglemoss usually doesn't, but they have a few times, like their Sulaco. It does have a peg hole. And it's not terribly noticeable. At least I don't think so. I'm very proud of myself for not either knocking this over or the camera over. The joys of being blind, folks. Anywho, it does have good weight. And it feels very solid. Keep in mind these were made a few years ago, probably when Diecast was a little more die-casty. Plastic on the engines or that rubbery stuff. Center parts, metal. Guns are luckily plasticky. And this bottom kind of fin is plasticky. This fin does remind me of something from Star Trek, but I'm having a hard time placing it off the top of my head. A little bit like the Merchant Man. This does have a little bit of that Merchant Man vibe, but mostly that fin, and it's much smaller, corrugated. I would assume I'd have to fold up if it were to land, but mostly these just cruise by a planet and shoot the drop pods off. Interesting that the predators aren't really a war species, they're more of a hunting species. Although in the universe that they are in with aliens and humans, there's not many other spacefaring species they would have to fight an outright war with. I also find it interesting that the thrusters kind of point this way vis-a-vis the other way, kind of look like intake. Keep in mind, guys, this is, even though I've known of the Predator scout ship forever, This is my first time actually ever seeing one. I never had a, say, a Micro Machines or whatever of this ship. For whatever reason, Predator stuff is just less common than Alien. So, yeah, like I said, the details are a bit blocky or soft because just the era it was made in. The underside does have some kind of fish belly kind of scaling here, and then I'd presume, well, as I said, I presume it's where the drop pods are. I guess the drop pods are. I'm not sure. It's interesting that there's kind of more going on under here than on the top. I think it's safe to set it down here. Not a whole lot to break about. And again, here's the Eaglemoss shuttle. It's also pretty solid feeling, and it's a mix of plastic and metal. Has a little bit more of a hollow ring to it, but this is one of the blockier ships in the series. Slightly bigger, more massive. Well, you can tell too this was a studio model because it is more of a basic built shape versus the modern CGI look of things. I'm not saying one's better or worse. I'd say there's pros and cons. But the Eaglemoss stuff was always more expensive. For whatever reason, probably just licensing fees, Eaglemoss always charged more for their Alien Predator stuff than they did their Star Trek or even Battlestar Galactica. I can imagine this being a pure film franchise. Even if the majority of films weren't great, it's still popular. I still like Predator and Predator 2. Which is a bit ironic for me saying it, but it was a cultural touchstone. So yeah, I wanted this ship. If I find the mothership for a decent price, I'll pick it up. But I won't pay over probably $30, $35 maybe. That seems to be about, in today's world, what I'd say this is worth. But it's a good example piece, and I'm happy that it does kind of fit in with the Eaglemoss. Honestly, if you had an Eaglemoss style stand, doesn't quite have that handcrafted, hand-painted feel. It does feel more industrial, but it's not a bad thing. Try to find that little hole. Again, it's pretty well recessed. I like it. If this wasn't so tall, I wouldn't worry about knocking it over, but it would be kind of nice if this base were heavier. That's one nice thing about the Eaglemoss. At least they come with this kind of weighted acrylic base that keeps them upright. If this were on a weighted base, I think it'd be a little better. So it is a little wiggle wobbly. Luckily, it's probably going to fall on the side, not front on the cannon. That would be something I would concern myself with. But I just thought we would change pace a bit. We did some real world space, then I did some planes, and now I'm doing this just because it struck me as fun. What do you think? By the way, this is called the CINEMACHINES line that they did a couple of series of. Kind of a clever naming of the two words being blended. Nothing new, but new to me, and I'm happy to finally know what the Predator ship looks like. Of course, that does leave one question. What did the Predator look like himself? Well, when I was a kid in the 80s, there weren't really Predator toys that I can recollect. After all, it was an R-rated film, unlike some others. Eventually, that didn't keep them from making Alien toys in the 90s, but I was getting a bit old for that stuff then. Not to say I didn't buy one or two, but still. Like I said, Fox has been into NECA, so I couldn't help but also pick this guy up. If I'm going to get the ship, I might as well get the Predator himself to go with it. This is the original one. The same seller had these, so why not? Again, I was a little concerned about the whole NECA breaking thing that happened a few years ago, but according to Fox, they've kind of fixed that. And I kind of checked online, and it seems like, yeah, with the newer series, they're not really that fragile. I'm sure I'll still find a way to do something, but yeah, my first experience with NECA figures. Next time, this video, I'm just going to focus on the ship, but I wanted to kind of tease him. He is the ultimate, as they call him, jungle hunter. I think we just called him the Predator, or the first Predator. They even have a name now, what, Yaucha, whatever they call them now. When I was a kid, they were just the Predator. But yeah, I'll talk about him in an upcoming video and my thoughts. I had a bit of an idea what he looked like, but I was actually surprised he's not really wearing a lot of clothing. He's more primitive than I kind of envisioned. Anyway, appreciate you hanging out today. Hope this was kind of different and fun. I have covered the alien ships in previous videos, so if you haven't seen those, well, check them out if you're bored. If you're busy, don't worry about it. Either way, appreciate you hanging out this long. If you could, do like, share, and subscribe. This is Misha. Catch you very soon. Next time.